The sun is shining, the tank is clean, and we're not getting out of here. We are just getting started. Welcome to After Action Report, your numbers recap show for all Schmoedown matches to keep you caught up on all the action. As always, Megs, your host, with the amazing Nat here. How are you doing today?
Oh, Megs, I'm doing great. It's been a pretty eventful weekend for movie lovers, and I am excited to do the show because there's a lot to talk about. Let's get into it.
Absolutely. Yes, there is. We are going to be breaking down all the matches from this past week. Unfortunately, I was out of town most of all last weekend, so I have not been able to catch up on the free-for-all, sadly. But what we are going to do is we're going to be breaking down the singles matches that we had this week, starting with Beth May versus Jessica Sloth. Then we had Jacob London against Jacoby Bancroft, and the return of Little Evil JTE against Ben Goddard. And to kind of do a little bonus thing at the end, we are going to be talking about, can you beat the current high score in singles? More on that later as we go along, but let's jump right into our first match of the day. Of course, we had the early Patreon match released on Wednesday, Beth the Maniac May, loving these nicknames, versus Jessica the Sleeper Sloth. And coming into this match, these guys are both rookies, didn't know a whole lot about either one of them going in. They made their rounds on the after action or the after shows, but starting off here, we had Sloth being up by 2, 4-6, coming out of that first round there, where Sloth defers over to Beth May, who spins opponent's choice on her first spin and is given movie release dates, where she goes 10, or out of 10 points, she only gets 8 points. I cannot read today. She gets 2 points out of her 8 available to her. She gives up a 2-point steal and a 1-point steal that Jessica is able to capitalize on, but misses out on a second 2-point steal opportunity there in that round. Going over to Jessica's round, she also spins opponent's choice on her first spin and is given war movies, where she also only gets 2 out of 8 available points. However, she gives up 2 1-point steals, which only gives Beth May 2 points worth of steals versus Jessica being able to come out with 3 steals. So that does give Sloth a gain of 1 point to be up by 3, 11-8, going into this third round, where May avoids the TKO by hitting a 2 and a 5 in Crime and Tom Cruise, but misses a 3-pointer in Sports, where Sloth has to answer a 2-point in Biopics, misses a 3-pointer in Brad Pitt, and then hits a 5-pointer in Animated, which does give her the win of 18-15, where Beth May answered 7 of 18 questions for 53% accuracy and scored 52% of 29 available points, where Jessica Sloth answered 13 of 18 points or questions for 72% accuracy and scored 56% of 32 available points. So, looking at this match, I am seeing a defensive struggle the whole match. Kind of a little bit of a rocky start for both of them there in that first round, but 2-point deficit is not bad. And then they both end up with opponent's choice on their wheel rounds, which ideally for your first match, you don't want to see happen. But looking at how they maneuvered here, Sloth decides to check down to multiple choice on all of her questions versus trying to answer for the full 2 points, which while she doesn't get very many points there, she only gives up 1-point steals to her opponent, versus Beth May was kind of swinging for the fences a little bit and gave up 2 opportunities for steals that were for 2 points. Nat, what are your kind of thoughts in general of how these ladies approached these wheel rounds?
So this wasn't the highest scoring affair, but that's okay because I appreciate defensive battles as much as the next person. And I do think it's kind of rough that they both had opponent's choice. But I do think that as rookies, that doesn't hurt you as much because there's no game tape on you and they don't know what you're weak at. I think that that Jess and the Den did a really good job picking movie release dates because that's gonna be hard for anyone. And I also think War was a smart choice on the Quirky Mercs behalf because that is a category that competitors have trouble with in the past. I've said in the past, and I'll say it again, I think Jess is going to be a champion this year because I drafted her in fantasy. So I was looking forward to this match because I do think she's very good. I think that I don't know. I could be totally off base here, but I did think that maybe there was a little bit of nerves with these two competitors. I'm hoping that goes away once they get acclimated to the game. And I think exciting. I really like Beth May. I think she fits so well in with the Quirky Mercs, and I think Jess is better. Is capable of a much better game than this. Even though this was a very good game, 72% is still a pretty good accuracy percentage. So I am looking forward to seeing what these two ladies can do in their second matches.
Absolutely, yes. A lot of potential going in, and definitely Beth May is a wonderful personality. Her pre-match promo was hilarious, very quirky, very fitting to her faction. And Jessica definitely is someone that we don't know that much about, but she comes in and seems to be a pretty solid knowledge base. And so definitely very excited. And for someone who, as her interview on Backstage, she doesn't do a podcast. She isn't necessarily in film school. She just has been a fan of this league and was prodded to get involved, and now she's in it. So I think definitely some of those first-time nerves could have been a factor, but I think they're definitely both people to be keeping your eye out for as we go along into the season.
Yeah, definitely. And Manny brings up an interesting point in the chat. Hey, Manny Medaway. He says that Jess seems like the silent but deadly possibility. I do get major Marisol McKee vibes from Jess. So that could be a very good thing.
For sure, yeah. Nice seeing you, Manny, seeing Level 2 Trading popping in here. Ben Rayner here in the chat. Always great to see you guys. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Yeah, she definitely has been, again, not big on the talk, but when it came down to game time, she was able to get it done. So definitely some really neat possibilities moving forward for sure. Now on to our next two rookies that we had. The Aussie, Jacob London, and the Deal Breaker, Jacoby Bancroft. Did you have either of these two on your fantasy league?
No, they're both on Paul's team.
Okay. All right. I was going to say, normally I have to always check. It's like, okay, there's going to be a sway here in your discussion based on this. But Jacob London was someone that kind of caught my eye a little bit on the off-season, particularly. I didn't pay close attention to the rookies just due to some other things I had going on, but he was definitely one that had my eye. And then Jacoby Bancroft, one of the last members that we see of the Fan League 4 to make their showing. So definitely interesting to see where these guys were going to end up and where we ended up. First time, as I mentioned in our breakdown of rookies last season, or last week, we hadn't seen perfect rounds from a rookie yet. Well, we got two. Not only did they get perfect rounds, they also went the perfect 9 for 9 to where they were tied going into round 2, where London was given the opportunity to spin first, which he takes, spins away from David Lynch initially, and takes Oscars, where he goes 7 out of 8, checking down the multiple choice once, but giving no steal opportunities away. And Jacoby Bancroft takes DreamWorks Animation on his first spin and sweeps the category for the full 8 for 8, which now gives Bancroft a 1-point advantage, 17-16, going into this final round, where we see London hit a 2-pointer in Tom Cruise, a 3-pointer in Bancroft bounces back over to him. He hits a 2-pointer in Crime, and London misses a 3-pointer in Tom Hanks and a 5-pointer in Quentin Tarantino, which does give Bancroft the win with a final score of 18-19, where Jacob London answered 14 of 16 questions for 88% accuracy, scored 67% of 27 available points, where Jacoby Bancroft answered 14 of 14 questions for 100% accuracy and scored 100% of 19 available points. So, not only are we seeing perfect rounds from first competitors, we're seeing perfect second rounds from first-time competitors. And also seeing that 100 for 100 across the board there for Bancroft. Definitely a first for this rookie crop so far.
Yeah, I don't have either of these guys on my fantasy team, so I can speak without bias here. But I think Mark Ellis said before the match that these two could potentially be the Nadal and the Federer of the future. And they hadn't played a single match yet, so I wasn't sure about that. But after this match, I think that's a very, very good comparison to make, because these two are two of the best rookies we've seen all season. I mean, Jacoby Bancroft didn't miss a single question. He got all the possible points he could have in this match. So what more can you say about that? I mean, it's ridiculous how I think they both went perfect for the first two rounds, except for Blown had to go check down the multiple choice once.
Mm-hmm.
And that is wild. You know, I think that I've heard a lot of hype about Jacob London because he was one of the first fan league champions, and I've heard even more hype about Jacoby Bancroft from being in the fan league 4 and how good he is. So this match definitely lived up to the hype, and I think it exceeded it. I can't wait to see how these two compete in the future, because I think that they're both going to be a tough task for anyone else.
Absolutely. And, to be said, and there's something to be said, well, first out of the gate, you knock it out of the park, can you keep it up? What kind of endurance are you going to have here in the league with such an impressive first going? But you never know. And some of these competitors that we have seen thus far that maybe weren't as highly talked about could come up and surprise us too. So that's the crazy thing about rookies. You don't have anything to go off of, so you were up to being surprised. And as a statistician who likes analytics and numbers, I do also like being surprised. So super excited to see what's going to be going on there. And you made a point of the idea that Bancroft answered all the questions he was given, which brings in an interesting conversation about a perfect game. How valid is it when you aren't pushed to your 3 or your 5-pointer, even if you don't have to answer any questions in round 3? That is highly dependent upon what your opponent does in the game. And we'll talk more about that when I talk about beating high score points. That actually has more dependent on your competitor, your opponent, than it does you. But more on that later. We're going to go ahead and jump into a match that we just talked about 4 amazing rookies. We're going to get into an old veteran of the league, the return of Little Evil JTE, going up against the sophomore Ben the Bandit Goddard. Now, I have actually only been watching the Schmoedown since spring, summer 2019. So season 6 was when I actually started watching the league. I have since gone back and watched some. But Nat, you've been watching the Schmoedown for quite a bit longer than me, as well as most of the people here on the C2A channel. What, having watched JTE for so long and seeing some of his early careers, how excited were you to have him back in the league?
So I haven't been watching like since season 1 or anything, but I've been watching since 2017, and I'm pretty sure that's when JT was the team's champion with Jeff Snyder and the Patriots in their legendary run. And dare I say, they were the biggest heels at the time. Like, I hated them so much because they represented the Patriots and everything, and they're Boston. You know how I am. I'm New York. But JT was definitely had a big impact on me getting into the Schmoedown. So it is so great to see him back. I think that he is right where he belongs with the Finstock Exchange, right back with Bobby Gucci.
Mm-hmm.
And I was pretty disappointed. I think it was 2 seasons ago when he lost to LeShannon Miller, and he didn't get a single round 2 question right. So it makes me really happy that he's returned to form in this match.
Yes, absolutely. And let's go ahead and jump right into kind of what happened here. And to answer Level 2 Trading's question, did he spell everything right? Absolutely not. He was in full JTE form, and I was loving every second of it. But coming out,
Notre Dame.
Yeah. But coming out of round one, Goddard was up by 7-6. So coming into that second round, Goddard does defer to have JTE spin first, who he decides to take martial arts movies on his first spin, one of the new categories for this season, where he sweeps the round for 8 out of 8 points. Definitely really awesome to see JTE back in that level of form, especially with the new category, but was definitely, if you knew him as being big fans of action-adventure movies, makes sense that this would be in his wheelhouse for sure. But then Goddard spins away from the 1990s on his first spin, but ends up taking Wizarding World, an IG category, something that he has stated he's usually very good at. And he also sweeps for a total of 8 out of 8 points, which keeps Goddard still up by 15-14, coming out of that second round here into the third round, where it is a back and forth. JTE hits a 2-pointer in animated, Goddard hits his 2-pointer in Spielberg, JTE third 3-pointer in Pixar, Goddard 3-pointer in martial arts movies. JTE hits a 5-pointer in black cinema, forcing Goddard to answer a 5-pointer in spy movies, which he is unable to do, which does give JTE the win with a final score of 20-24, where Ben Goddard answered 13 of 15 questions for 87% accuracy and scored 74% of 27 available points. JTE answered 13 of 15 questions also for 87% accuracy and 89% of 27 available points. So before we jump into kind of our thoughts here, I want to give a big shout out to Ben Ritter for the $5 super chat there. Thank you so much. Great to see JTE back, and it was an awesome match for him. Can't wait to see what he does in the future. Absolutely. I think JTE has come back in amazing form. He didn't necessarily, I don't think he skipped a beat. I think him doing some of his old habits, the callbacks to the JTE me, that was just a beautiful moment. And the classic spelling errors, mispronunciations, all things of the old JTE that we loved, but also just having a good overall good percentage. And also Ben Goddard performed very well. Also, they both answered the same amount of questions, 67% accuracy overall for both of them. However, it was the miss of the 5-pointer. The 5-pointer just didn't fall into Goddard's favor, more fell to JTE's favor, where he was able to get the win there. And they both were able to capitalize on very strong wheel categories for both of them.
Yeah, I think people should stop disrespecting JTE's name, because for the longest time when he was back with Jeff Snyder and the Patriots, everyone kept saying that Jeff Snyder was the stronger player, that he was carrying the team. And there were several instances where JTE actually won the match for them. JTE is a huge part of the reason why the Patriots are one of the greatest teams ever. So it makes me happy that he is as good as I remember him being. But also Ben Goddard, you have to remember, like, Ben Goddard is so impressive. There was for the first half of last season, people often forget, but he was like very much in the running for Rookie of the Year. And it's hard to believe that this is only his second singles match ever. But I really hope that he gets to play more this season, because I think that he is one of the more overlooked people in the league in terms of trivia skill. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the future holds. I really hope to see JT back to his old habits again in his next matches. So can't wait for that.
Absolutely. And very much true about Ben Goddard. He was someone that was highly touted as a rookie at the beginning of the year, and then just due to maybe his own decisions, just how things were going with the faction, he sort of fell off the radar for a lot of folks. So we didn't see him a ton. Yeah. And somebody in here, Dylan here.
I was just going to ignore that. Dylan did grab JTE like very late.
Some random genius. I don't know what you're talking about there, but just I'll have to find the tape on that. But yes, JTE's misspellings and mispronunciations are legendary in this league. So glad to have him back in, but also super excited to see what Goddard's going to do. He was a rookie who got a win in 3 divisions. Teams win, singles, and intergeekdom. The guy can do it all. Let's just hope that he gets an opportunity during this season to kind of show that off, as well as also being a captain for the Den specifically. So that is all we have for the matches. We only had 3 matches this week. However, what I wanted to kind of go over here, where we were talking about the Jacoby Bancroft match, talking about that 100 and 100 accuracies and percentage of points earned. Again, that depends on what your opponent forces you to have to answer. The maximum number of points in regulation that you can get for a singles competitor is 27 points. And that is, again, max points without any steals. And we saw that happen specifically more recently with Bibiani and Barbarian back in the tournament of last season. Collins and Meyer actually broke the singles point record, but that was during overtime. They were both at 25 points going into overtime. But something that I wanted to look into is there a way that you can actually beat the singles record in regulation time without going into overtime? I will tell you, it depends on your opponent, because your opponent must be down by no more than 5 points going into the 3rd round. That forces you to have to answer your 5 in order to beat them. And also, you can only have a maximum of 2 points worth of steals. And that has to be off of 1 question. Thus, you can't have 2 multiple choice steals for 2 points. It has to be a multiple choice steal or a 2-point steal on just 1 question. So that creates that the regulation limit of points that you can earn in a singles match is 29 points. That is the most you can get, because if you gain more steals than that, you actually go above that 5-point differential going into the 3rd round, and you will not have to answer your 5-pointer in order to win the match, as well as you also going perfect in the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd rounds. So there's some examples down here of how that would all play out. Again, both of you going perfect in round 1, you sweeping round 2, your opponent checking down to getting 2 questions for 2 points, 4 points there, checking down a multiple choice once, and missing a 2-point question, which gives you 2-point steals. That point differential there is 5, the maximum you can get. You both go perfect in round 10. That gives you a total of 29 points, them a total of 24 points. You go down to another variation of it. The only difference here is they answer all 4 of their questions without going to multiple choice. So that gives them 6 points in round 2, with giving you a 2-point steal, which you have to capitalize on, obviously. And then that gives you 29 points and them 25 points, because there's a 4-point differential going into that 3rd round. Another option that you can get this situation in: if your opponent happens to go perfect in round 1 but doesn't get the bonus, you have a 1-point differential going into round 2. You sweep round 2, your opponent, again, they have to go 6 points in, well, they could check down to multiple choice once, but ideally they go all 4 questions for the full 2 points. Misses one of those questions, gives you a 2-point steal, 5-point differential, and actually that is true. You can't check down to multiple choice at all in this scenario. You're already at the 5-point differential max, 29 and 24 points at the end of the match. So these stipulations of your opponent must be down by no more than 5 points, and you can only get a maximum of 2 points. That same stipulation applies to all 3-round matches across any division, because you always have 10 points available to you in the 3rd round, regardless of what round 1 or round 2 does. So if you just add 2 points to the maximum number of points without any steals that you can get in a match, that is the limit of regulation points for each division. So, as I said before, for singles is 29 points, Star Wars and IG is 33 points, and teams is 42 points. kind of some crazy stuff in there. Nat, thoughts? Anything silly in the chat going on over here?
Yeah, I mean, this is fascinating. I think Dylan says he's surprised that the criteria has been met thus far. I feel like I'm the opposite because like so many things have to go right for it to be met, and I'm actually pretty surprised that 27 is the current singles record is actually very close to it. It's worth noting that this is the highest score you can have, not accounting for sudden death. And when Jessica Sloth faces Damaro for the title, they're gonna go to 100 questions sudden death. So give me those fantasy points.
For sure. And the closest we did get to this opportunity was the Bibiani Barbarian match back at the singles tournament in 2020, where Bibiani actually went perfect. However, Barbarian didn't give him any steal opportunities. So the highest Bibiani could go was 27 points, and that was what he earned. Yeah. So again, you have to have those steal opportunities to increase that number to give you a new singles point record inside of regulation.
Yeah, a lot of it is dependent on what your opponent does. Like you have to like have them miss certain questions as well as get your questions right. So there's a lot that goes into it.
Absolutely. It's a perfect storm of events. And I will neither confirm or deny this, Dylan, that I've been banned from gambling nights because of my number counting skills, apparently. But I do like my numbers. I enjoy looking for the similarities in the analytics. That's why I get to do this show and why it's so neat that I get to do it also with you, Nat, that you let me geek out about my numbers.
For sure.
But that is all that we had for this episode of the week. Kind of a short one. Again, be on the lookout. I'm hoping to get a chance to watch through the free-for-all this week and come up with some representation of how things went down the free-for-all, all things that I've heard and what I have been able to digest from it. It was a crazy event. If you are not a $10 patron or you did not get it on a pay-per-view, please do. It is one of the most amazing events that the Schmoedown does. Super excited that we got to get it back this year and super looking forward to being able to have it every year. Hopefully next time it being a live event. So absolutely. Any other final things from you, Nat, as far as what we saw this week?
I mean, I think it was a great week of matches. I was really looking forward to seeing Jessica Sloth play against Beth May, so that didn't let me down. I think that Jacoby Bancroft versus Jacob London absolutely blew me out of the water. These two are definitely the future of the league, and I can't wait to see how they progress. And it's as always, it's super awesome to see JT back. I think Ben Goddard gave him a really hard test, and the old fan of me is very happy to see him get a win. Hey Dylan, let me know if before he plugs up, let me know if I'm allowed to say who our guest on No Chill is.
Well, before we get into your plugs, I will mention, even though we didn't talk about the free-for-all here, you can check out Call Live on Wednesday. We shifted around the schedule a little bit. They're going to be going live on Wednesday evening, and they will be talking about the free-for-all, all the big moments that happened during the event, hopefully getting to talk to some people that were involved. So that should be a really fun time. And again, keep an eye out for some statistical analysis from me based on that event. Have not gotten to do one of these yet, so get to do some new fun analytics, which is always gets exciting for me. So Nat, what is going on the rest of this week, and what can we expect to see you in the rest of this month?
So
I guess there's only a few days.
Not giving me permission to reveal who our guest is. But we are recording it soon, and the goal is to have the next No Chill episode premiere on Thursday because we're doing stuff tomorrow and on Wednesday. So Thursday is the goal. Keep an eye out for that, and check out Twitch Tuesdays tomorrow at 6 p.m. PT. Tomorrow should be fun. What else do I got? I usually have a fantasy segment at the end of Call Live, so check that out when it airs at its usual time. I think that's it for me. Find me on Twitter. This is in the description.
Also, you can find all of Call to Actions as well as all of us involved. All of our socials are listed down in the description of this video. As always, thank you guys so much for joining in. Be sure to like and comment on this video and make sure you're subscribed to this channel so you can get notifications about all the amazing things we're doing here all season long. Until next time, for Nat and the whole Call to Action family team, I'm Eggs, and this has been After Action Report, signing off.